They did it. They canceled the meeting. President Trump announced that this morning. And this comes amid insults that were made toward the Vice President of the United States, Pence, over his comments that the Libyan model would be what was used for North Korea if certain things were not followed, and the North Korean official called him a political dummy. Uh, there's much to get into. I'm just kind of taking it in because, as a person who has ardently spoken negatively of Trump since he's been in office and was one of his steadfast defenders while he was running for president, I'd really hoped that there would be something I could put under his so-called achievement bracket and say, yes, this was good, this was great, this is how you do it. But instead, I'm subjected to having to effectively sit here and be amazed at this choice and the fact that I can already tell there are going to be people who, and I expect his cabinet members and Republican senators that are in office, along with congressional members in general, to just go and blindly support everything he does. What I don't expect is for supporters of his to give him a pass over something that they would have criticized anyone else for doing. Now, ask yourself this. You know a country has nuclear weapons, or rather has just has missiles, and you are concerned about the dangers they pose to the rest of the world. You have worsened relations between your country and theirs by going back and forth about whose missile button is better and yada 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 yada. So when you have the opportunity to hold a summit where you and that person meet and confer and talk about, loosening the frustrations that you have toward each other, why would you end it because someone said something you didn't like? Especially if it wasn't the actual head of state that did that. And the reason I bring it up is because if you go back and just go on Google, type in Trump tough, you're going to find various instances in which he said that under him, American policy would be tough toward here, tough toward there, tough toward this. Ending a summit that is going to determine possibly the fate of the world because someone called someone a name after that person made a remark about their country is not tough. And I've made mention of the fact that name calling is not conducive to forming any type of just rapport or dialogue. But we're talking about me sitting here in this nice, comfortable place, as opposed to people having their lives threatened by the weapons that we're producing today. So I would think in that instance you would have to suck it up. And again, Trump himself didn't get insulted, and the only reason Pence was gone after was because of the fact that he came out and made a comment that an official over there didn't like. That just feels very simple to me to be able to admit that, but people are unwilling to. And the reason I'm kind of harping on this is because I want to go more into the main reason this happened. So if you go on any news network, any station or place, you're going to see these people who will make the argument of, oh, Trump canceled it because this might have happened, that might have happened. I'm going to say he might have been bothered by that comment that that minister made of Pence, but 98% of the reason for canceling that meeting has to do with that national security advisor of his. I've spoken about Bolton a couple of times on here, and people have this thing where they can't seem to understand why I think this man is so dangerous. And it's for the fact that he's openly talked about wanting regime change in Iran and having strikes against North Korea, effectively escalating these conflicts beyond what they've been before. In addition to being able to whisper all of this stuff into the president's ear. It was different when he was just a Fox commentator. But as a person who is in the position of power, who is going to sit in at these cabinet meetings and confer his opinions to a man who, let's stop beating around the bush. We know Trump doesn't have any actual position on these countries. If you go up to him and you ask him, what do you think of Syria? You're not going to get an answer that doesn't sound as if it's something off a teleprompter. So it's much easier to influence him than others. And I just wish people would recognize that. But I really hope that when we inevitably start our conflict with these other countries, people will know who the two people who are to blame for it. Yes, Trump is the one who has the power to make these decisions, but when you have someone whispering in your ear, jargon that you have no way of disproving, it becomes very tempting to take it for what it is, or for what you think it is. And I can tell you, Bolton and the rest of those suit-wearing people on Capitol Hill are never going to have to worry about going to any of these countries and getting destroyed by their arsenal. Just dumb.